Hey there, I have a thought about how do you unleash your greatness within.
My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs, that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. Greatnesswithin.com. TJ Hoisington. Greatnesswithin.com. Oh, if you dreaming it, believe in it, work hard for it, and in the process serve others in a positive way. Think you can do it.
Think about that. How do you unleash your greatness within? Here's a very simple way to do it. And you know what that simple way is? It's called making a true decision. Listen, at some point, you've got to be able to look out at the ocean, see an island out there, and decide of the myriad of opportunities that might be out there, options for work and so forth. You've got to be able to look out there, pick one of those islands, pick one of those opportunities, pick one of those ideas that you have, and then make a true decision that you're going to go toward that island and you're going to take over that island and you're going to develop that island, right? That's what unleashing your greatness within is all about. It's waking up from the matrix and saying, you know what? I'm going to put my stake in the ground and I'm going to make this goal or this idea a reality. And then burning the midnight oil, working hard, backs up against the wall. You're going to make it through high water or not, right? You're just going to make it a reality. Why? Because you're going to make a true decision, right? When you're interested in a goal, you'll do it when it's convenient. When you're committed to the goal, you'll do it whenever it takes, whatever it takes. You'll work as hard as you have to. You'll burn that midnight oil. You will put the sacrifice in to make it a reality. Understand this. Part of the beautiful aspects of being a human being is that you have what's called free agency, the ability to choose. Any moment you can choose your behavior, any moment you can choose your reaction to something, any moment. And there's always a space between stimulus and response, right? There's always a little space in there. You can pause for 2 seconds and choose a new decision, a new reaction. Those decisions stack up over time, right? You think, well, this little decision doesn't really matter because, right, it's just a little decision. But here's the reality. You make a little decision, it may not seem like a big decision down here, but if it puts you on a new course, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, it could put you in a whole different destination. And so you want to make sure that, number one, you kind of have a vision for what you want for your life. You pick a decision or an opportunity that you're going to drive toward, and then you make a true decision to drive toward that. Now, part of making a true decision is that you're willing to burn the ships. You know that old story of Napoleon, who went to conquer a territory, and when his soldiers got off the ship, he told them to burn the ships. I don't know if that's a fable or whatever, but it's been written about in the past. And they burnt the ships, and he said, we either win or we die. And that's what I would say to you, that you pick a goal, you're going to move toward it because you're going to make a true decision. And that doesn't mean that you can't change the process or the strategy from time to time, but it's always going to be adjusting to actually take over that island or opportunity that you're focused on. Now, these decisions are really important. And let me just share a couple examples with you. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jim Whittaker and Lou Whittaker. Back, 40 years ago, they were mountaineering guides and so forth that would take people on these long hikes up in the mountains and so forth. And wow, just inspirational brothers. But Jim Whittaker became really well known because he was the first American to ever mount Mount Everest or summit Mount Everest. And one time, he and his brother were guiding some people up Mount McKinley in Alaska when they were all roped together. And one of the gentlemen slipped and fell down a crevasse and broke his leg. Well, what do you do when you're up in the mountain, 14,000 feet up in the air? You're in this mountain, you're all by yourself. If that body doesn't get off the mountain and get to a hospital, he's likely going to die, because if you're not moving your body, you're not staying warm. So what do? This was written about in Hap Klopp, the founder of the North Face book, which I interviewed on my podcast. You can go back to one of my very first podcast interviews with Hap Klopp, who wrote The Adventure of Leadership. I tell you what, he has impacted my life. What a good friend and what an inspiration, I've got to tell you. Hap Klopp, wow. But in the book, he describes that they radioed in for a jet helicopter. Now, why would you want a jet helicopter? Well, because jet helicopters do better in the thinner air when you're 14,000 feet in the air. So their thought was, we'll get a helicopter to come out, pick up the body, we can send him on his way, and the rest of us can still continue to hike up Mount McKinley. Well, unfortunately, the jet helicopter was being used on a different rescue. And so what happened? They had to kind of settle for a regular helicopter. They didn't do as well in those high altitudes, but could make it up there and so forth. But it made it up on the edge of that cliff, and Lou and Jim Whitaker put this 175-pound body onto the helicopter, and lo and behold, guess what happened? The helicopter could not take off. And so, what do? This is a moment of making a true decision. What would you do? Right? What are our other options? Well, this is what they decided to do. And sometimes making a true decision is making maybe a risky decision, maybe summoning up the courage to do something you normally wouldn't do, to innovate a little bit. Well, this is what they did. They got on both sides. Both Lou and Jim Whitaker were 6'4" brothers, 6'4" in height and so forth, big burly guys. The body of that hiker on the helicopter weighed it down, and so they got on both sides of the helicopter, grabbed the rails, they lifted the helicopter up, and as the story goes, they heaved it off the edge of that cliff. And the story goes on as the helicopter went down in the air and then took off into the horizon toward the hospital. Wow, what a bold decision. But you know what? In life, there are times when you've got to make a true decision. And sometimes it's in a risky situation. Sometimes it's just a difference between two good choices. Two good choices, both could be good for you career-wise or whatever else. At some point, you just got to make a true decision. Let's see if I have anything else here. Oh, yes, Charlie Tremendous Jones, who endorsed If You Think You Can. What an amazing man, and I became a friend to him because of one late night calling his phone number that I noticed on a cassette tape, and he happened to be the only one in his office that night when I called him, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning when I called his time, and he answered the phone. And it's an unbelievable story that you can find by reading If You Think You Can and so forth. But he became an awesome friend. But one thing he would always say is this about decisions, about making a true decision. He would say, you're not born to make right or wrong decisions. You are born to make decisions and then make them right. Let me say that again. You were not born to make right or wrong decisions. You were born to make decisions and then make them right. What does that mean? That there are no such thing as right and wrong decisions? No, of course there are. He wasn't suggesting that. There were no right and wrong decisions in life. Of course there are. What he was saying is, so often we become paralyzed by not making a decision that we end up not making progress. At some point, you just got to make a decision and then adjust it along the way. That's my hope for you today, that you'll pick an opportunity, something that gets you excited, something that's worthy of your energy. Make a decision that you're going to conquer it. Maybe it's you're trying to decide on what career you want or what kind of degree you want to study and so forth. Lock onto one of them and start driving towards it. If you've got to adjust along the way, hey, you can do that. But at least start working toward it as your life depends on it, and follow it through to the end. And I promise you, you will be benefited greatly in your life by doing that. And I'll also say, when you make true decisions, other doors open that will aid your progress. So go make a true decision today. All right? Now go out there and unleash your greatness within.